Hi guys, Illia Touporia mentioned today that Khabib Nurmagomedov would have been his dream opponent. Khabib Nurmagomedov is his dream opponent, and he would have loved to enter the octagon with Khabib. He said he respects Khabib a lot. Khabib was like an honorable champion, and it would have been like an honor for Illia Touporia to actually get into the octagon with Khabib. He would have loved to perform with Khabib, and then the reporter actually asked him, "Do you think you would? How would you have fared against Khabib in the match in an MMA fight?" And Illia Touporia actually mentioned that he would have beaten Khabib 100%. Now, I'm not gonna get mad at it, and because that's the mindset he needs to have. If he wants to be successful in fighting, he needs to believe that he can beat everyone on the planet right now. So that's a fighter's mindset, and many of the fighters have that. This sort of self-belief that we saw in Conor McGregor as well. When people were trying to actually question Conor McGregor, they were saying that Conor, you haven't beaten anyone. You're not going to be able to beat Jose Aldo. And the Conor actually just ran through him in 13 seconds. That was a Conor I actually respected as well. He was hungry. He was on his way to the top, and he actually like emulated the self-belief into his performance. And so this is what Illia has, and that's why I see a lot of similarities between Illia and Conor McGregor, because his self-belief is just crazy. He said that he was gonna knock out Alexander Volkanovski. No one actually believed him. Even I didn't give him a chance, and he knocked him out. And then he said the same thing about Max Holloway. And people were so confident in Max chin and this, and Max has never been dropped. And Ilya is like, I'm actually going to knock him out. And he made that happen. So this was unbelievable. And this is because of his mindset, I believe. But let's just assess what would have happened in a fight if Illia Touporia actually fought Khabib. So from the technical side. Now, I can see Ilya beating the young Khabib maybe. The Khabib that actually just came to the UFC, because he was very reckless with his striking and he did not have like the best control. Like, he was able to take people to the ground, and sometimes he was struggling to take people to the ground as well, but mostly he would take people to the ground, but he wouldn't be able to control them as much as he was able to do it later in his career. It was also because he was only like 23 years old, and you could see his physical growth after that. So when he turned like 25 or 26, you could see how it was developing and was getting stronger, and how his grappling control was actually getting better. Like, he was predominantly more like a wrestler when he came to the UFC, but then he improved his striking and also improved his grappling on the ground. So people always bring up the fight of Khabib struggling against Gleison Tibau, but people don't actually realize that Gleison Tibau was on steroids during that fight. He was fully blown up, and he fought a very young Khabib. So Khabib was very early in his career. He did not have any like sort of established striking to actually even set up the takedowns, and that's why he was struggling with Gleison Tibau. He even won that fight. So, but I'm gonna assess Ilya's performance against Khabib that beat Conor McGregor, Khabib that beat Dustin Poirier, the Khabib that beat Justin Gaethje. I think that Khabib beats Illia Touporia, and that's no hate against Illia Touporia. I think Illia Touporia is tremendous, and I think Illia Touporia might actually be able to reach that level. But I think there are just a couple of things that's actually going to play a difference. First of all, I think Khabib is much bigger than Illia Touporia. The way he was able to manhandle even the bigger guys, and we've seen videos of Khabib just manhandling opponents in the place academy that he's training at. Much bigger guys like Luke Rockhold. Everybody says that Khabib feels like a middleweight. Michael Johnson came out recently and he says Khabib, when he was on top of him, he felt like a middleweight. He was so strong. And Daniel Cormier actually mentioned that when Khabib gets like a body lock on you, you just can't get out. And we're talking about a guy like Luke Rockhold. He couldn't get out of the body lock when Khabib got on top of him. So I think size would have played a massive difference, strength of Khabib. And also, I think stylistically, it would have been a very hard matchup for Illia Touporia, because the guys that Ilya has beaten, I'm looking at like the highest level of competition that he has beaten. Guys like Volkanovski, what were they trying to do? Volkanovski is a striker that wants space. He does counter striking. He will put on a pace on you sometimes as well when he knows that he can actually get you. But he wants a space, and then he comes in, throw across. What else does he do? He throws a lot of leg kicks from outside. That's what he does. And he has sharp striking. Okay, few punch combinations, in and out. He can wrestle, we know that, but against Illia Touporia, he wasn't going to do it, because Volkanovski is not like an American wrestler. He wrestled in Australia for like a while. That was like a long time ago, but he's not like an NCAA sort of wrestler, right? He can wrestle with the guys who are just strikers, but Illia Touporia has a bit of grappling background. He wasn't going to do that, play that game with Illia Touporia. But he also wanted to stay away from Illia Touporia, because Illia Touporia loves his striking in the pocket. So over there, you had like disparity, right? Volkanovski, he wants to stay outside in that match. Illia Touporia, who wants to stay in the pocket, because we've seen Illia Touporia going for the straight punch, comes closer. He throws like a very quick, very sort of like short hook. that he drops people. Left hook is one of his best weapons. And then he throws like a 3-punch combo, 3 to 4 punch combo. All the fights that he's winning, he's throwing that 3 to 4 punch combo. And he throws that very fast. And he throws that in the pocket. So he's trying to close the distance because Illia is not even like a tall guy in the weight class. Although he was a bit taller than Volkanovski, but that's what he loves. And what were these fighters trying to do? They were trying to move away from Illia. They're like, we don't want to trade with Illia. Anytime they were getting hurt, he was able to push them back to the cage because they wanted to sneak out and Illia wanted to close the distance, right? You saw the same thing against Max Holloway. So Max Holloway, being a much taller guy, he was able to control the fight from outside. I wouldn't say control because Illia was actually still landing a lot of shots. But Max was kind of doing all right during the match. But that's what Max wanted to do during the fight. He didn't want to get caught by Illia. He didn't want to trade the punches in the pocket. Because the thing is, Illia's hand speed is faster than Max's hand speed or Volkanovski's hand speed. And if you're going to trade in the pocket, he's going to be able to land it faster than you. And his technique is better in the pocket. So he's probably going to hurt you more as well. And he hits very hard. That's the thing. So what you want to do is you want to land a couple of strikes from outside and you want to stay outside. That was the plan. Max is not a wrestler at all. So the game plan of wrestling was out of the window anyway. So even when he got hurt with a straight shot first, he moved back, moved to the cage, and that's where Illia wanted him. So Illia started chasing him and Max was trying to move away, but he just couldn't. He got hurt one more time and then Illia dropped him with a left hook. Now against Khabib, he's not going to be able to do it. That's the thing. So you can put the strength of Khabib aside, you can put the size of Khabib aside. But just as a game plan wise, Illia Touporia cannot have the same game plan against Khabib. Because Illia Touporia wants to close the distance, to have the inside the pocket shots. But that's what Khabib wants. Khabib also wants to close the distance. So like Illia is going to wait for Khabib to actually come inside so he can throw like close distance shots. But anytime he's going to try to do it, Khabib is either going to get the clinch or Khabib is going to get the legs so quick. Right? He's not going to have time to land those 4 to 5 punches. He's never going to have the time to land those 4 to 5 punches. So anytime, he's actually, I think he's a fighter made perfectly for Khabib. Because for Khabib, the purpose is to close the distance. And I think he's going to do it for Khabib. He's going to do it, like he's going to run into the takedowns himself. If he's going to stand in the middle and he's going to say, okay, Khabib, I'm going to do inside the pocket striking. That's a blessing for Khabib because then he can just shoot for the takedowns. And Khabib is going to make it very tiring for Illia Touporia. Illia Touporia has a grappling background. We know that. But he's not as high level of a grappler as Khabib. That's not even close. Like Khabib, what he was able to do to bigger guys and much more established guys is insane. Justin Gaethje was a NCAA wrestler, high-level wrestler, just couldn't stop any takedowns from Khabib. He just couldn't do. Dustin Poirier, black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, much bigger than Illia Touporia, just got manhandled completely. That fight was not even close. So I think Illia Touporia against Khabib, I think stylistically that's just a very bad matchup for Illia Touporia. And who actually did all right against Illia Touporia in his fights? I would say Bryce Mitchell, who's not even 40% of a wrestler that Khabib was. He did okay in that fight. If you see, Bryce Mitchell was actually able to take Illia down. Why? Because Bryce Mitchell is a takedown artist. That's what he was willing to go for. And Bryce Mitchell striking is not close to Khabib striking what it was like at the end. And Bryce Mitchell is not as big of a guy as Khabib. He's not as technical as Khabib. He doesn't have the same jiu-jitsu as Khabib. Jiu-jitsu is not even close. Like Khabib was such a good jiu-jitsu guy. So I think Khabib will make it very tiring for Illia Touporia. He will take him down again. And he will control him really on the top. And he will land ground and pound. So it would be very hard for Illia to actually stay in the pocket and trade the shots. Then Illia is going to have to change his game plan. Illia might try something else. Maybe try the outside striking, which is not going to work again. Because I think from outside striking, Khabib is actually better. And then Khabib is going to try to put the pace on him. Even when they're doing the boxing. Because then there's going to be like a threat. So that's what he does. Now your brain is overthinking. You're doing more multitasking. You're looking for the takedowns. Yeah, you're threatened that your opponent might actually shoot for the takedowns. So I think that Khabib is going to make it very ugly for Illia Touporia. And I can see Illia beating a very young Khabib, but I do not see him beating Khabib that beat Conor McGregor or Khabib that beat Justin Gaethje or beat Dustin Poirier. That will be a very hard fight. But again, this is MMA. Anything can happen. Illia could have caught him with like a left hook, and although we have seen Khabib just taking shots from anyone and not even flinching, but Illia could have caught him, maybe dropped him or something like that. But if I have to put my money on it, I would lean 80%, 80 to 20% for Khabib. 80% to Khabib and then 20% to Illia in that fight.